Hey guys, welcome back to Daisy Crochet, or welcome if you're new. If you are new, my name is Shay and this is my crochet YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing something exciting. We're going to be making this pumpkin. I've actually had this pattern for years, but I've never made a tutorial for it. So today we're going to sit down and do it so that you guys can all make these cute pumpkins too. Before we get into it, I just wanted to note a few things. First of all, clearly my nails are a train wreck. Just ignore them. And next, you'll notice that these are two different sizes. So we are going to be making the small size in the video, but then we also have the small, medium, and large sizes available for purchase separately on our Coffee account. And then we also have a pattern bundle with the 3 sizes, and that is also at a discounted price for you guys. So again, in this video, we're just going to be doing the small, but if you want to make the full set or the medium and large instead, those are available for purchase in the description. Alright, so to make this pumpkin, you're going to need 2 colors. The first one I'm using is just this super cute orange with flecks in it. And then you'll also need a stem color, so I'll be using brown, but you can use green or whatever you'd like. And both of the yarns that I'll be using are Bernat Blanket, but any chunky or super chunky weight 6 chenille yarn will work for this. And then you'll also need a stitch marker, an 8mm crochet hook, and a pair of scissors. And optional, just a darning needle, but you can also use a hook for weaving in the ends. I just like to use the darning needle, especially because we make little divots in the pumpkin and it makes it a lot easier to use a needle, for me at least, but you can use whatever you'd like. And then we will also need a little bit of stuffing to stuff our project at the end. Alright, so moving on to actually making the pumpkin, we're going to start with our base colored yarn, so whatever color you want your pumpkin to be. And then we're going to be making a magic ring or a chain 2 using our 8mm crochet hook. So I'm just going to be doing a chain 2 because it's less likely to rip since you don't have to close it up like you would a magic ring. So I just did a slip knot and a chain 2. And another thing to know before we really get into this is that this is a beginner friendly tutorial. However, this is not a how to crochet tutorial. So if you need help on any of the actual stitches or steps, then I recommend watching our how to crochet video or a different creator's how to crochet video to help you get the basics down before you complete this project. Alright, so now we're going to go into the slip knot or chain 1 that we made, and we're going to do 6 single crochets right into it. And if you're using a magic ring, you'll just do 6 single crochets into the magic ring. So moving on to the second round, sometimes I find that the first stitch is kind of hard to go into. So a little hack for you guys is to grab a darning needle and push it through both loops of the stitch first and then follow it with your hook. I just find that this sometimes makes it easier. And now that we have our hook through the first stitch, we are just going to be doing 1 single crochet. And I am going to grab my stitch marker and insert that into the first stitch. I know some people like to put their stitch marker in the last stitch of the row, but I find it easier this way. So now we are going to be doing 1 more single crochet into that same stitch that we just went into, and that's going to be our first increase. And this is actually going to be the pattern that we continue all the way around the entire row. So we are going to be doing 6 increases in round 2 for a total of 12 single crochets in this round. Alright, so now that that row is all complete, we are going to take our stitch marker out, and then we are going to be doing 1 single crochet into the first stitch of the last round. Now we're just going to be adding the stitch marker back, and we are going to be going into the next stitch with a single crochet. And this is actually going to be an increase, so we're going to be doing 1 more single crochet in that same stitch. And then we will be continuing this pattern of 1 single crochet and then 1 increase all the way around. And this will leave us with a total of 18 single crochets once we've completed the round. Alright, so I've now placed my 18 single crochets, so I'm just going to pop the work out. I just find it easier to work on it this way. And now we're going to move on to round 4 of the pattern. So I'm going to start by taking my stitch marker out like always, and then I'm going to be doing 1 single crochet into that first stitch of the last round. And just inserting my stitch marker back in, and then we're going to go into the next stitch with another single crochet. So now that we've made 2 single crochets in the first 2 stitches, we're going to go into the third stitch and do an increase of 2 single crochets. Then we are going to do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then another increase in the third stitch, and that will be the pattern that we will repeat all the way around. So 2 single crochets and then an increase for a total of 24 stitches all the way around. So I'm just gonna go do this and I will come back to you when I've done my 24 stitches. Alright, so we've now finished round 4 and we're just gonna take out the stitch marker and start off round 5 by doing 1 single crochet. And then after reinserting that stitch marker, we are actually going to be doing a pretty simple row. So this is just going to be 1 single crochet all the way around. And we will actually be doing this for row 6 as well. So 2 rows of placing 1 single crochet all the way around, which will leave us still with 24 stitches all the way around. Now our pumpkin will just be a little bit taller. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2 rows of 1 single crochet all the way around, and I will come back to you to complete the next steps once that's done. Now rows 5 and 6 are all complete. So again, I still have 24 stitches, but the pumpkin is now just taller. So at this point, we are going to start doing decreases. So for round 7, we are going to start by just doing 1 single crochet and then putting that stitch marker back into that first stitch we just made. And then in the next stitch, we are going to be doing 1 more single crochet. So that is a total of 2 single crochets in the first 2 stitches. And then we are going to do a decrease in the 3rd and 4th stitches. So we are just going to be going into both of those 2 stitches. And then once we have 3 loops, pulling through all 3 of those loops. And this is going to make our pumpkin smaller. So we are just going to be doing 2 single crochets and then following it with a decrease all the way around. This will leave us with a total of 18 single crochets in this round. And you'll notice also that I am going into both loops when I do my decreases. So I'm not doing front loop only decreases, which I know a lot of people like to do, but I just don't feel it makes a huge difference. So you can do whatever you would like. But again, I'm just going into both loops to make my decreases. Alright, I'm now just finishing up row 7 with 2 single crochets and my last decrease. And now for the next row, we are going to be doing 1 single crochet and then putting our stitch marker in as always. And then in the next stitch, we will be placing a decrease. So this is the pattern that we're going to work all the way around. So 1 single crochet followed by a decrease, and this will leave us with a total of 12 single crochets in this round. And right after this row, we are going to start adding the stuffing. So I will come back to you once I'm finished it, and we will stuff it together. Alright, so to stuff the project, I'm just going to start by inserting a little bit of stuffing into both sides. And then we are actually going to be making a bit of a hole in the center. So I like to say it's a donut hole because that's just kind of what it looks like to me. But you basically just want to kind of use your fingers and shape the stuffing so that there is a circle or hole in the middle that reaches all the way down to the bottom of the project. And this is going to make it a lot easier to do the indents on the side of the pumpkin, so I would highly recommend doing this step. And then once our pumpkin is stuffed, we're going to move on to the final round of this project. So we are going to be placing a total of 6 decreases into this final row, and it will leave us with 6 single crochets in the row. So I'm going to go ahead and do decreases in every stitch all the way around now, and I will come back to you once that's all complete. So to fasten off this project, we are just going to do a chain and pull it through, and for this project you're going to want to leave a fairly long string of yarn. I usually end up doing too much just because I would rather be safe than sorry, but you just want a long enough piece to make the little indents in the side Alright, so I'm just going to pull this knot tight, and then I'm going to be adding my darning needle onto that long strand of yarn. And first I'm just going to start by stitching up the top, so you can do this whatever way you'd like, but I like to just go across diagonally through the 6 stitches at the top and pull it tight, and then I'll also be securing it with a couple knots just because I like my projects to be very secure. So that's what I'm going to do now. Alright, so now we're going to move on to doing the indents. So starting at the top where we just made the knot, we are going to pull the yarn down the side of the pumpkin. So just guide it down the side. It doesn't really matter for the first one where you put it, and then you are going to take your darning needle and insert it into the bottom of the pumpkin. And we are going to be pushing the darning needle all the way up to the top, and then once it's sticking out the top, we'll be pulling it all the way through, and you will see as you pull the yarn tighter and tighter that it will form a little indent in the side of the pumpkin. And you just want to make sure that you're pulling it tight, but not too tight that it rips. I actually had my yarn rip at one point in the project. I'll point it out to you, but you really want to make sure that doesn't happen, just to make sure your pumpkin is all secure and everything. So we just want to pull it very gently, but also making sure that that indent is nice and defined. And then we're going to be making a total of 6 indents, so we're going to go directly across from the first one that we made and kind of split the pumpkin in half. So again, just guiding the yarn right down the side and inserting the needle in the bottom, pushing it all the way through, and then pulling the yarn through as well. And we will want to be pulling it tight after every single indent, although you can do it at the end. It's much easier if you do it now. And then you notice I'm just kind of pinching the bottom and pulling it up. So now that the pumpkin is divided in half, we're actually going to be splitting those halves into thirds. So starting with the first little third in the top right corner, we're going to be guiding the yarn down the side of the pumpkin and inserting the darning needle as always through the bottom, pushing it all the way up. This is where I totally ripped the yarn, so make sure you're being very careful. I just ended up inserting it back into the bottom and securing it with a knot. Not a huge deal, but really try to be very gentle. So just continuing on to the second third, I guess, in this half. So just going directly across from the last one we made and guiding the yarn down the side. And then we will be repeating by doing 2 more indents on the other side, and this will leave us with a total of 6 all around the pumpkin. So I'm going to show you how I do it for every single indent, but if you kind of get the gist, you can just go ahead and do that now, but otherwise you can watch me on the screen and see me finish up the indents of this pumpkin. Now that we've finished up the indents, we are going to secure it with a couple of knots, and then we are just going to kind of squish the pumpkin and form it just to make those indents more defined. So you'll see I'm just kind of pushing in those indents, squishing the pumpkin in general, and it does definitely make a huge difference, so I would recommend doing this step. So I ended up just cutting that string short, and now we're going to move on to doing the pumpkin stem. So grabbing my brown yarn, I am going to do a slip knot and a chain 2, but again, you can do a magic ring if you would prefer that. So once I have done my slip knot and my chain 2, we are going to be working into that first chain, and we're going to just be making 4 single crochets into that chain. And if you're using a magic ring, just 4 single crochets into the magic ring. And then for the second round, we are going to be making a single crochet into that first stitch. And then into the next stitch, we are actually just going to be doing an increase. So 2 single crochets into that next stitch. And then into the third stitch, we are going to be doing 1 single crochet. And then for the very final stitch in the round 1, we are going to be doing another increase. So this will leave us with a total of 6 single crochets in row 2. And you can leave the pumpkin here, just flip it inside out, and you can leave it here for the small size pumpkin, but I am going to be doing one more row in the stem. It's totally up to you though, like if you want to make it way longer, you can continue with the next row that I'm going to show you here in a minute, but if not, you can just cut it off here, leaving a long strand of yarn and sew it up. But I'm going to be doing one more row like I already said, and for this row we are going to be doing one single crochet in every stitch all the way around. So this will still leave us with 6 single crochets in this row, but our stem is just going to be taller now. And once we're done with that, we're just going to be doing a little chain, and we are going to be doing another long strand of yarn before cutting it off, just because we have to sew this onto our pumpkin, so we want to make sure we have enough yarn to do that. So I'm just going to cut it off here. And I've now just grabbed back my pumpkin, and I'm going to grab my darning needle as well to sew on the stem. And you'll see that this time I have a slightly thicker darning needle, which does work better with chenille yarn. So I would recommend using a thicker one if you have it, just because you'll have to use a lot less force like I was with that thin one, but anything works really. And to sew, I'm just going to ensure that it is completely in the center. And I don't really have a specific method of sewing, to be honest with you. I just kind of go through the stem and then go through the pumpkin, or go through the pumpkin and then go through the stem. And I go all the way around. It's about like 6 stitches, just because you have 6 stitches in the stem, but give or take. And once it is secure all the way around, I will fasten off and weave in that end, but you can use whatever sewing method you would prefer for this. And you'll also notice that I didn't stuff the stem. You definitely can, I have in the past, but for this one I just stuck the loose ends into the stem and it kind of filled it out more, so you can do that as well if you'd like. Alright, and once our stem is all secure on there, we are just going to be doing a couple knots to make sure that it stays on there. And I would recommend going through the brown part to make these knots, just so that they're not visible. So I'm just going to be doing 1 or 2 here, and then I will be weaving the excess yarn through the pumpkin to hide it. This is the completed pumpkin. So here are the 2 small pumpkins together, and if you'd like to make the other sizes, the medium and the large, they are available for you in the description. And don't forget, you can also get the entire pattern bundle for a discounted price, and that leaves you with a super cute set. I'll show you a few pictures on the screen, but I'm sure you also saw in the thumbnail how cute these sets can be. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial today. Don't forget to like it if you liked it, and subscribe to see more videos like this one. We do lots of tutorials on this channel, but we also do lots of other things as well. So make sure to stay tuned for lots of fun content coming soon. And if you do try out this tutorial, make sure that you let me know, because I would love to hear how it went for you. Thank you guys so much for watching again, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!